Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
I'm Ben Matlock.
And it's, we're back. This week's been a little bit, better is a weird word to use when it's not a good week, but
I'm
started
substantially more tired.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is this week, I've had a lot less bullshit than we dealt with last week, but also, like, there's nothing left in the tank after last week.
Speaking of tired bullshit and having something in the tank, I feel like you're leading up to something here.
That would imply that I'm good at what I do, but
that's
sometimes
sagging, hot segs.
Yeah.
Hot segs in your area. So yeah, I hit rock bottom. And every time I think I hit rock bottom, I find a new low. And I thought it was bad enough, like, getting into watching, like, pro Call of Duty. But then they had an advertisement during this last tournament, like, hey, go to the Mountain Dew Game Fuel website and buy a case of Call of Duty Game Fuel, and you'll get a free character skin. And now here's where it's really fucking sad. These character skins are $10 on the game. But I'm like, I'll buy it in the most complicated, more expensive way possible.
Well, but this way you at least get, like, a physical good.
Yeah, and it showed up today, and I was super embarrassed because it comes in a big box that says Game Fuel, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, like
you know,
where's my
all my neighbors are going to know I suck ass.
You're like, couldn't they have at least put it in a box that says sex toys or something? Like, that'd be less
hey, seriously. Yeah, I put it in like those sex pills fucking ads where it's like, we'll put it in a discreet package, even though it's like the only package that is like discreet. Black.
Yeah.
And like they can't put it in a normal box. But I bought a variety pack of this shit. And because that was the only way you could get it. Like, it's like, if you want Mountain Dew Game Fuel, you get it all, or you get nothing. That's how they handle it.
Yeah.
And I figure it had 4 flavors in it, so, like, just a little fun thing before we get to the show proper. We'll do Ben's big beverage review. Oh, Jesus. Holy shit. I was gonna say, these cans are weird because they're resealable.
Yeah, that's the one thing I actually like about them, because as I've mentioned all the time, I'm a raging alcoholic, and I've had Game Fuel. I've had it for a long time since, when it first came out. I used to get it.
I've had it since the dawn of the age.
I just want to prove that I'm an OG Game Fuel. Except I only buy that stuff if I'm, like, mixing it with usually vodka, but really,
yeah.
Anything that sugary mixes with anything that's got alcohol. Like, you can, tequila works great with it. Rum,
that's the thing.
whatever.
You reminded me that even if this shit is just in my fridge and I don't like it, then, like, I can buy booze and it won't matter.
And it goes with just about any kind of booze you buy. Yeah. But for as much as I talk about alcohol online, I don't, I couldn't open one of those cans. What is that? Is it a 16 ounce? 24? I forget how much.
It's 16.
They're 16, yeah. So when I make a mixed drink, I want to make a proper mixed drink. So I usually mix it about 50-50. There you go. Lots of booze.
Usually I drink just enough out of the can to pour booze into the can, because who has glasses these days?
Yeah, I'm older than you, so I'm more adult and I use glasses. But my point is, I generally don't drink 16 ounces worth of hard liquor. So, like, I might use half a can in an evening. So I do appreciate that you can reseal it and, like, come back the next night. Like,
you were complaining about how, like, it used to be bubbly, and maybe it was just you, like, letting them go flat.
Yeah.
But so what we have today is the original Dew flavor. I just popped it open, and what's scary is that the liquid isn't moving. In the can. It kind of looks like flubber in there.
So nice viscous quality, if that's what you're looking for in a drink.
Oh, that actually sucks shit. Unless they advertise with us, then it's the best thing I ever had.
Yeah.
But no, it tastes like a flat Mountain Dew.
Yeah, that's what I've never had just the original Mountain Dew flavor, and that's almost what I said, but I didn't want to, like, prime your... I hate, like, if you're getting ready to watch a movie or a game and somebody's like, oh, well, that movie is just, like, too...
I didn't want to ruin this for you.
Well, I didn't want to prime your expectations. I wanted to see what your day... But, yeah, that's kind of what I expected.
And it tastes like diet, in a way. Like, flat and kind of a diet Mountain Dew. Which I'll drink, but at least that has bubbles. This isn't bubbly.
And like you were alluding to, on Twitter when you got, I was kind of making fun of, but I do get them from time to time. But they're the kind of thing that when they first came out, I would get them, and I was like, these are pretty good. But I don't get them very often, and like I said, I always mix them. I don't think I've ever just drank one. Mm-hmm. I've had sips of it without booze in it, but I've never just like drank a whole can of it. So, like, somewhere along the line, and somebody else on Twitter in the past had kind of confirmed that there's something about it that they changed from when they first, and I think it's the carbonation. I think it used to be not like it was...
the carbonation would kill people.
Yeah, probably.
Everything else they've done with this shit.
In the quantities that gamers drink this stuff, they're like, we can't do that. They're going to explode like, pigeons eating rice or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think, not that it was ever like super, it wasn't like Coca-Cola carbonated, but I think there was a little more fizziness to it, but it might be the sugar thing too. Like,
well, the way that popped open, it was kind of like how things are like sometimes like nitrous sealed. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Am I thinking of the right thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's a sealed thing, but it's not like carbonated in the way you'd think of it. Like it's not fizzy, but it is like pressurized.
Pressurized for your satisfaction.
Yeah, I guess. This will actually be a bit of a chore because I'm not going to waste it. But
that's
now I have to drink it throughout the show, and I'm like, what the fuck? Because it's weird. Because even on like the box and shit, it's like they say like Mountain Dew Amp Game Fuel. Mm-hmm. And their amp is like, it's a more caffeinated energy drink. But I actually drink those sometimes. Like, those are fine. Well,
that's the funny thing too, is when there was I don't know if you posted it, or I think it was when I was looking to see if I could quickly Google, like, did it actually change?
Quick.
Yeah. I need a skin for a game that I don't play. Where do I get it? But they showed it, like, they had one of those, like, just infographics about where the caffeine falls, and it's really not that high. It's elevated from, it's elevated from Mountain Dew. It's just above those, like, Starbucks triple shot drinks that you get. Mm-hmm. So, but it's way below something like a Monster Energy or something like that.
Well, like I said, like on Twitter, we were talking about it. And it's like I drink at least one Monster a day, and if I get like the Java ones, which are like like when doctors ask me inevitably, what happened? What did you do wrong? I'm going to remember all of those that I drank because they're the best thing ever. But they're like 200 milligrams of caffeine a can. Yeah. And it's like, that's brutal.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
That's like half of like the max caffeine intake doctors would say is like you can survive on. They don't even recommend that.
No.
Like doctors would tell you no caffeine probably, but
Dave Grohl has a pretty good caffeine story. His wasn't an energy drink, so it was literally just coffee. But I've seen it in a couple of his interviews where he was just he was working and like doing so much stuff. It was during the recording of one of their albums, but of course you've always got appearances and all sorts of other shit in there too. And he wouldn't think about it. He was just running off of coffee, but he was getting like 3 hours of sleep a night and drinking like 8 pots of coffee a day. And like eventually he admitted himself to the hospital because he was having chest pains and thought he was like having heart problems. And they ran all these tests and they're like, you're perfectly healthy. Like, what have you been? Do you drink coffee? And he's like, well, and he told him what he was. He told him how much.
Weave you a tale.
Yeah. And he said that they basically looked at him and was like, okay, don't do that at all ever again. So caffeine's really bad for you if in those quantities. It's actually good for you.
And that's where I'm at. Like I was at work and like just getting like the worst chest pains I've ever had in my life, and like it was getting close. Like I'm one of those people where it's like I don't leave early unless something's like really wrong. I never call out unless I'm really, really sick. You know, and like this was one of those times where I was like, fuck, I might actually need to go to the doctor. And then it went away, and then I had another energy drink because I was like, well, it's fine now. But I definitely need to wean off it. So this is a great reoccurring segment to drink a fucking caffeinated beverage that I definitely don't need because I did have a Monster earlier. But I'm committed to this show. I'll put my life on the line for it.
Just to earn us a sponsorship from Game Fuel, which
Absolutely.
we'll never get because
like,
you
it's
started it by taking.
I think it kind of tastes like shit.
I was going to say it's hard to get that sponsorship when you take your first sip and your next words are ugh.
Well, we got 3 more flavors, but for as far as original Dew Game Fuel, I give it 1 star out of 5.
Well,
because it tastes like old soda.
Yeah. Well, when the Game Fuel thing doesn't pan out, you've got the rest of the case to use. Maybe we can nab that like Sky Vodka sponsorship or something.
We'll do the original, since each flavor has 3 cans. We'll do the original reviews for the first 4 weeks, and then we'll do the reviews where I'm drunk as fuck.
Yeah. And surprisingly, you'll be like, man, this is terrible for a mixed drink. By the end of the show, you're like, this is the best fucking drink I've ever had.
Oh, man, and I got a finale, too. At the end, when I just, I'm on death's door anyway, I'll mix all the flavors together for one final super review. So look forward to that. I hope you've enjoyed Ben's fucking big beverage review hour that took an hour. This is a non-essential podcast. We tell each other stories. Doesn't seem like it, but we do that.
We eventually tell each other stories.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, our podcast has this built-in game for the listener to play. It's can you make it to the actual contents, or are you going to tune out while we bullshit? But this is like our one chance a week to talk and bullshit, so we get that in there too.
Look, I have to talk about Game Fuel somewhere, and nobody listens to me on Twitter, but so why would I waste time typing? Nobody listens to me here, but I don't have to type. Anyway, what do you got?
So I got surprised when I realized it was Thursday already, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like
shocked and awed.
Yeah, this week has been, and it's generally a good thing, but it's been the opposite of most weeks, where you're like, "How the fuck is it not the weekend yet?" Where it's like, "Oh, it's Thursday," and it's like, "Oh, it's my turn." So I wasn't sure, but fortunately, I've got a bunch of like half-cocked ideas already worked up, and so that's where I went. But this is I got 3 urban legends, like creature type things. So it's one of those wells that we go to quite often.
Yeah. And Game Fuel has to predict the right one.
And
has to guess which one's true.
The very first one might be one that I don't think you've mentioned it. I know I haven't. That's the problem with these like compilation episodes. But I did do my what is it? My signature move of starting with the very first word is something that I have no idea how to fucking say. So I think it's the Jinjanger. It's Scandinavian. It's spelled Gjenganger. So like Jinjanger. Jinjanger, yeah.
Like my eyes kind of rolled back a little bit, and I kind of disassociated. Like that just sounds like sounds.
That's what I love about like that Scandinavian Nordic, language, is a lot of it's just these, like, they sound neat, but they sound like gibberish to our dumb American ears. Anyway, many cultures have legends involving zombies, empty husks of those who have died, bodies devoid of humanity, that once lived within them. So you're shambling, like, it's a creature, but it's not an intelligent creature. It's driven on like the primal, generally like your brains, or more so now you picture just eating flesh and, spreading its zombie virus. And probably every single culture that's ever lived has their legends about ghosts, which are kind of the opposite. They're the remnants of the humanity that was once in the body, but it's the part that can think and
it's
and
the
act.
gooey center.
Yeah, but it doesn't have the corporal
as opposed
body.
to the gooey shell.
Shell, right. So Scandinavia's Jinjanger is really a combination of both these things. The Jinjanger, which translates to walking after death,
is thought basically to be like a zombie with the spirit still inside, but the spirit's an asshole.
Exactly. And they're thought to be a person that's died only to come back as a terrifying, shambling zombie. Basically what you just said, that actually retained its mind and memories. So like it even remembers who it is and, you know, that kind of thing. So it's basically just being resurrected, it sounds like, except for you're a terrifying zombie.
Legend. I mean, nothing good ever gets resurrected. Resurrected is like an inherently, like, we're bringing a fucker back.
I mean, if you're Christian, Jesus, you know, that'd be the exception there. But yeah, other than that,
I guess that's a big one. Sorry.
Yeah, pretty.
But, I was thinking more in terms of like fantasy tropes and shit.
Well, there's a lot of people that would put that in that category too. But yeah, I mean, you tend to. These stories don't start like. And
I guess it says a lot about me that most people hear resurrection in America. At least they probably think about Jesus Christ, and I'm thinking of like Diablo and shit.
Pet Cemetery, yeah. So the legend dates back to the time of the Vikings, of course, and it said like at the time of the Vikings, they just kind of believed that Jinjangers were fairly common things. It wasn't even like you might come across this creature. It's just like, yeah, people come back from the dead. Like many spirits, it's said it's that it's people who become Jinjangers are people that died with unfinished business to take care of, which I guess would be like good news if you're waiting for a deceased person to pay back their loan. Like your cousin borrows some money and then dies and he comes back to life. He's like, I have unfinished business, must pay Steve back. I'd be like, cool. Thank you.
I have unfinished business. Here's your chair. Bye.
I was building this house for you, and I need to make sure it gets finished. Yeah. But it's probably really bad news if that unfinished business has to do with like if you were the reason that the thing died, you either killed it or something like that. It said a lot of it.
That's not really fair because you finished. If you killed him, then you finished that business.
Well, your business is finished, but his revenge business.
No, I finished his business by. Sorry, pal. No more business is closed.
Well, that's why you have to have like the cool action movie line when you slayed somebody back in the Viking times. You had to go transaction complete, and then they're like, "Fuck."
If that was like their unfinished business, is like, you need to give a one-liner.
I never got a receipt. So
say take a hike and then push me off the trail.
So what stood out, I do really love the idea of like a thinking zombie, and I know it's been done before too, but generally, our thoughts on zombies are just those like mindless, animalistic killing machines, sometimes fast, sometimes slow.
Beautiful friends.
Yeah. But one that's actually like capable of seeking out specific vengeance against somebody. It certainly would make for like a really interesting movie or video game or something like that. Especially since they're said, just like regular zombie, like classic zombies, that they are able to infect their victims, which would turn them into Jinjangers, which I would suppose would have revenge to seek out at that point. Like, I wonder if you ever get to the point where it was just like the what was it?
Your unfinished business is to fuck up the Jinjanger.
Well, it'd be like the Knights of the Abyss in Dark Souls 3, where they're just fighting each other. Like, they keep killing each other, and they're like, fucker, I'm coming back to life to kill you. And it just, pretty soon, like, that's what happened to the Vikings. Everybody's like, how did the Vikings die? They all became Jinjangers.
They all got bit by Mick Jagger and had to fight the Mick Jaggers that bit them.
But it does seem like a pretty cool idea. Except for it becomes a lot more stupid when you get to the part where Jinjangers spread their infection not by scratching, clawing, or biting their victims, but by sneaking into their homes at night and pinching them in their sleep. So you got this like...
That's not too bad.
Yeah. It's just... you build up this like terrifying revenge-seeking reanimated corpse, and then you're like, and then he'll find you and sneak in and pinch you. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it's better than like the vampire thing where you have to like
let them in.
There's always variations of it where it's like they bite you and then like you have to drink their blood, so you're like then you have that, and then like not only did that person guarantee you're going to hell, but now you have to like work for them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh yeah, great, cool, a boss forever.
And you can't even fantasize about killing your boss because that would kill you.
Yeah, it would go against everything, you know. They did, yeah. Fucking eternal life. I drank your blood, which was disgusting, by the way. And now I gotta bring you fucking all the best victims. Yeah.
But I did come across something at some point when I was like looking into this, where like it was said they would pinch you, and then you'd wake up and you'd have this like spot on your body. It looked like, you know, basically where your body is dying off, and that spot would spread as the infection gets you, and then you die. And so they kind of posit that this, you know, legend kind of came about probably during like a outbreak or plague of some sort, and it was like their way to explain
it and move on and do nothing about it.
Because as we've all learned over the last year, if your choice is like this invisible death virus that you can't really do much to protect yourself against, or shambling zombies, like the zombies are the less terrifying option. So you're like, yeah, let's just call it zombies. At least we can like keep a sword by our bed and pretend to protect ourselves.
Yeah, there's like a physical thing you can kill. This is, you know, with all this like COVID shit, you know, if like we could just shoot it. Actually, America would probably be on cloud nine if we could just...
Well, if you remember, one of the very first things to happen when everything started like shutting down is people like rushed to the gun stores. So I guess they were hoping for Jinjangers.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, I genuinely believe like there's probably a large portion of like the gun-owning population who are genuinely just stocking up for like a zombie apocalypse.
I get that feeling too. Like you talk to people that are like, yeah, I hope to God I never have to use them, when secretly they spend every second of the day hoping they get to use them.
Like, that's the thing. Like, they have convinced themselves not only that a zombie apocalypse is going to happen, but they're somehow going to win at the end of it. And it's you know, if that happens, we're fucked. Yeah,
I know. I kind of would rather be one of the like first wave, like day one. You don't really even know what's going down. You're just like, oh fuck, I'm done.
I played the first Last of Us. It didn't seem that cool to survive, honestly.
Right,
like,
that's what I mean.
It sounded like shit.
Except the Jinjanger would suck, because at least with a traditional zombie, you just die and then your body just does its thing. Like this, you die, but then you're still aware, and you're like, God.
But isn't that really like? That's all the human experience is our awareness of shit around us. So, like, you know, I think after a while you wouldn't compare it to, like, oh, what I used to be. It's like, you know, the fucking human body sucks. What? So it's like, oh, I'm shambling around in a slightly different
Yeah, but you'd have less hope of, like, escape. Like, if you just die, you're like, at least I don't have to deal with this, like, apocalyptic world. And then you come back, you're like, okay, great. I'm stuck in this apocalyptic world and I can't die because I'm already dead. You're like, there's not even an escape here.
That's actually kind of all right, though. You're like, that's, you know, because you have your awareness, you know. Other people will have their awareness. Maybe you can't talk as well as you used to, but you can, like, point and shit.
And I wonder, like, how aware you are, because would it get to the point where, like there's a horde of Jinjangers just like eating, like ripping apart humans and turning them, and then you look over and there's me, the zombie that's just like on a boat fishing.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, like might honestly, as well enjoy it. Walk around, like take public transportation once in a while. People are not that alive as it is. Like, so, like, you know, I get, like, I don't think that we would. That's the sad thing about like, Shaun of the Dead is still the most realistic zombie movie, because it's like, you wouldn't notice for like the first few days that anything has changed. Like, you wouldn't notice until something tried to directly kill you. Because otherwise you would just assume people are just like, oh, he's a bit off.
Yeah, it's true. I've never really thought of it that way, but that would be the interesting part of and those are my favorite kind of like this new wave, like super fast, super strong, like terrifying zombie. It's like at that point to me, it's not a zombie. It's just like
that's a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in Left 4 Dead, they basically, what if one was the Incredible Hulk? And it's like, well, then I'm fighting the Incredible Hulk. There's nothing like undead about this shit anymore.
Right. Which again, I'm not gonna say what that kind of stuff you should or shouldn't be into, given that that's specifically not one of my genres anyway. Although I guess you should never tell people what forms of entertainment they should or shouldn't be into unless they're illegal or harmful. Anyway, that's the Jinjanger. That's the first one of my trio of things.
What do you give it? This is the review show, so.
Oh, it's a review show.
Yeah.
The Jinjanger, I'd give it probably a 72 out of 150.
That's a lot of math. We'll get back to that. Because not only do we have to convert that, we got to figure out how much that metric is compared to stars, and you fucked the whole thing up. All right.
I'm just exposing reviews for what they are. But
true. Scientific fact. All right, what's next?
Next are water babies, which is funny because that just reminds me of food babies, which is just a giant dump. But that's not what these are at all. So water babies originate from Native American lore. The term actually describes two completely different legends from different, I don't want to say completely different locations, but they're both regions out in the West. The first one is an area innocently named Utah Lake. And then the second one's the much more terrifyingly appropriately named Massacre Rocks State Park. So...
well, that sounds like a music festival.
Kind of does. Massacre Rocks water babies are said to actually be a race of murderous dwarfs who mimic the cries of a drowning baby in order to lure people into the water, where their frantic attempts to save the non-existent child leads to their own drowning, or the dwarfs, drag them under, whatever.
Joke's on them. I'm incredibly inconsiderate. So...
I do like the idea of these like little dwarfs that are murderous and just want nothing more than to kill people, but they're like, our tiny stature prevents us from... But what if we make them drown?
The thing is, like, that could only work in a certain time period. Because, like, now, like, I joke, but I would genuinely just start turning up my headphones.
Yeah. I don't think that I could let a kid drown if I thought they were drowning, but
I wouldn't think that. I would just be like, man, somebody's kid's, like, really fucking upset. Like, I wouldn't fucking think about it.
I'm drowning. Wow. Man, these kids' games are so weird nowadays.
Well, to be fair, if it was like, I'm drowning, wow, I would know right away. Like, all right, you're tricking me.
What if it was a baby pretending to be a dwarf? I was trying to lure you.
Same problem. So, like, can't let either thrive. It's not what you are. It's the deception that I'm against.
So it's between the two, Massacre Rock's legend of water babies that are just these trickster murderous dwarfs is actually like the lesser of the interesting one, which is disappointing because it's a way better name, like I said, for a murder site. But the legend of Utah Lake's water babies is a lot sadder. It is said that locals, I don't know if they meant Native American locals, like back before we fucked that all up, or, settler time, whatever, just
back when we said, where are the locals?
Yeah, by the way, who owns this land? No one. It's shared between all who, and it's like, oh, no one, you said. That's the part I heard. Well, guess what this flag means? Yeah, we've talked a lot about
I grew corn here. Looks like you're fucked.
Basically, people in olden times, when faced with insufferable drought or disease, would take their infants to the lake and drown them, so that the unfortunate children would not have to face the slower, more painful, starvation deaths. Or
really?
Yeah, that's what
Is that
it seems like there's be way better ways to mercy kill somebody.
Yeah. And I guess that's where it's fucked up, is like in my head, it's like, oh, there's got to be a better way to kill a baby. But like, to me,
if it makes you feel better, I kind of thought the same thing, but drowning is up in my, like, I don't know if I'm just like weird or if everybody does this, but I've kind of got a mental list of like the worst possible ways to die. And like the three that like really make me, like, decapitation bothers me, even though that's probably one of the best ways because you die so quick. But like just the idea.
I always just have that imagining of like you're still connected to your brain at that point. So there's going to be a few seconds where
that's the part I can't
you're
get
aware
over.
And I like, I'm convinced you would feel it down to your neck. So I don't want that. Right.
So that's why the exact same reasoning for me. Like, decapitation's something that just, I mean, other than it also being exceedingly gory and gross, like, but it's just one of those things that bothers me.
Oh, I don't give a shit about that. Like, you know,
well, I don't mean it like video.
Whatever
like
you do, you're gonna shit your pants. So it's.
But burning alive and drowning are like probably the round out my top three.
Yeah, I couldn't burn alive. Well, I say that as if it's up to me at that point.
Right, that's the problem.
I would never even begin to burn myself alive. But that's the weird split where it's like, I think drowning a baby seems incredibly slow and cruel.
Right.
But to me, it's like there's almost, and maybe it's just because I'm an idiot and I like the water a lot, but it's like, to me, it's like I could deal with that. Like, if I died drowning, like, that wouldn't be. Honestly, we were talking about it earlier. I thought diabetes would have got me way before that. So, if I die by drowning, I'll count myself lucky.
Realistically, it's, well, the first two, like I said, they bother the burning and the decapitation. But in both instances, your body probably goes into shock. So there's probably not, like, you may not. I agree with you. It's like you might feel it, you might not, because you know there is a such thing as your nervous system just like overloading and just like shock. Drowning is something that, at least through accounts of people who nearly drowned to death, you're very aware of up until you black out. So in contrast to some other methods, it does seem slower. But I could see if you're somebody that has to kill a baby, specifically your own, it probably feels less violent because you can't hear him crying. You're not directly applying force. So I guess that would be the thing that you'd see there. Which is morbid to think about. We're dissecting this. People do drown their kids, which is what makes this legend more believable. Except, and so of course it's thought that if you go to Utah Lake, sometimes you can still hear the cries of the baby, you know, the souls of the babies that were drowned there. Which in and of itself just makes it a sad kind of haunted place story. Except there's a second part where some people believe that some of these babies, instead of drowning, developed gills before swearing vengeance upon all humans who had, you know, tried to kill them.
Well, we were right to try then.
Exactly.
If that's
but
your
it makes me wonder, like,
every time I try to offer a free mercy killing, it's free. And now you're going to come back for revenge? Fuck you. I wish it worked.
Well, I guess the thing would be like, well, you got gills now. As long as I stay out of the water, you can't reach me. And the baby's like, damn. He's like, and also, if I do go into the water, you're still a baby. So I'm not that afraid of you.
So I can just stand on, hey, guess what? We built a bridge. I can stand and point at you and be like, hey, nice gills, you little idiot.
I can attest, you know, babies are maybe stronger than I would give them credit for, but they're still not that strong. Like, I think I could take one.
Yeah.
Even in the water.
Absolutely.
But that's the legend of the water babies. And then that one I'd probably give 3 stars out of 10.5. Because both of them involve like murder and one of them involves murdering babies, which not cool. You shouldn't do that. If you're listening and
unless it's multiplayer.
If you're listening to the show and you're considering like maybe killing a baby, I'm here to tell you don't do it. It's a bad idea. You know, just to be that moral compass.
If Call of Duty brought to you by Mountain Dew's Game Fuel taught me anything, it's that you should kill a baby with a hatchet because it's one hit. You won't even have time to think.
And if you put a scope on it, you can do it from a distance.
Yeah, an optic hatchet.
That's what you needed the game fuel for. That's what the unlock was. Not a cosmetic skin, but an optic hatchet.
That'd be cool as fuck.
So the last one is probably my favorite one. It's the Beijing's, it's Beijing's Ghost Bus, the Legend of the Ghost Bus of Beijing. So
Ghost
it
bus?
was, Ghost Bus, like the wheels
Like
on the
hop
bus.
on the magic Ghost Bus?
Exactly.
All right.
Now this one, it's a pretty popular legend. So there's different variations in the story. So I kind of put together the best parts of all of them. But they all kind of start out, of course, it was a dark and stormy night in the city of Beijing. And it was around midnight, because you have to have two cliches, not just one. When the driver of an all but empty bus spotted two men attempting to wave him down from the side of the road. Though it wasn't an official bus stop, and he knew he really shouldn't, the driver decided to go ahead and stop and let these men on. Upon doing so, he noticed that there were actually three men. They were actors, apparently, dressed up in period garb, it says of the Qing Dynasty, which is a period of like 1617 through 1897 or something. So it's like a 300-year period. So being like, oh, they were dressed in Qing Dynasty clothes doesn't really narrow it down a whole lot, but just like old-timey.
They wore old
clothes.
shit.
Yeah.
That's how we would phrase it in the States.
He hadn't initially noticed the third man because he was barely conscious and being helped up by the other two men, which makes sense because after your show, you go out drinking and the one asshole always takes it way too far and the other two are like, fuck, we got to drink, Dwayne is passed out again. Let's drag him home. So the three oddly dressed men made their way to a bus seat and the driver continued on with his route. Eventually, nearly all the passengers had departed, aside from the three men, of course. And then there was
part of any bus ride when
right. It is.
You're alone.
Except for, I think I've told the story before where when I was living in Pittsburgh, me and my friend were trying to get to a concert, but we didn't know the area. And we missed our stop, but we thought it was circling back around. And eventually, the bus driver was pulling into the depot because he didn't even realize we were still on the bus. And he saw us. He's like, where are you guys think you're going? And we told him, he's like, yeah, we're way past that. And we're like, oh, well, we'll just stay until you go back. And he goes, I'm going to the garage for the night. We're like, oh, fuck. So that happens. You got to pay attention. Turned out to be an interesting adventure that was spent 100% on a bus. And the act that we were going to see ended up, the main act canceled anyway because of laryngitis. So we didn't miss anything. Yeah. But anyway.
And we said, we'll have our own party here at the bus depot.
Yep. Well, he flagged down a bus that was leaving the depot. I was like, hey, these two idiots are still on my bus. Can you take them back to the city? And the guy's like, sure.
Hey, I don't want to be these guys' friend. Can you take them away?
These two clearly are not smart. But anyway, it's down to there's an elderly woman, a young man, and then the three guys that got picked up on the side of the road. Suddenly, the elderly woman started screaming at the young man in the seat. I said beside her. They weren't sharing a seat, but like across from her. Mm-hmm. Claiming that he had stolen her wallet. When the man's like, what the fuck are you talking about, crazy lady? And
you don't have a wallet. You're an old woman.
Yeah, woman. But she insisted that he had stolen her wallet and was kind of...
You don't have money either. You're on the bus.
Yeah, kind of smacking at him with her umbrella or whatever. And she said that they demanded that the bus driver stop right there and drop him off at the police station that they were near. And so she could go make a report. And the young man was confused, but he knew he didn't do anything. But he apparently agreed to go to this police station. I'd be like, screw you. But the two got off the bus, and the bus drove off. Then the elderly woman calmed down and quickly explained that she had picked the fight to give him a reason to get off the bus, because as it turns out, she had noticed that the three men the driver had stopped to pick up were floating and had never actually touched the ground. So basically, she realized that these were spirits, not people. We need to get the fuck off this empty bus.
I would believe her, and I would be infuriated. Because I'd be like, why the fuck did you get me off that bus then? Like,
yeah, you're right.
Shit was gonna get cool, dude.
We're gonna miss it, and suddenly the bus, you see a flash of light, and the bus zooms off into the sky. And
yeah, you don't want to be a part of that shit. Fucking death bus. Like, I paid my fare.
When the guy realized that she had saved him from the ghost bus, the two went into the police station to make a report, where, of course, they were laughed at and said, get out of the police station, there's no such thing as ghosts. As it turns out, the bus would never actually complete its route. 3 days later, the bus was found abandoned on the side of a road. Aboard it were 3 severely decomposed, almost mummified bodies. The driver, however, would never be seen again. Which doesn't really track, because nothing about the story said that these ghosts seemed violent, and if they just basically turned out to oh, here's these old corpses that had shown up as spirits, where the driver. So I like to think that the driver just realized they were ghosts and just ran for the hills and just kept running. He's still alive. He's out there by now. He's
in the world of supernatural. It's like the ghosts need and demons and shit need motivations to be violent, evil assholes for you. There's so many Japanese myths and shit where it's they kill you for no fucking reason.
That's true.
That's their thing.
But it is interesting to me that it's oh, they were spirits or demons, probably, like you just said. There's a lot of different creatures and lore and stuff. They don't necessarily just believe in ghosts, which I know they've got their ghosts and spirits too. But we've had many a show full of variations on the ghosts and demons and stuff coming back, just to, some of them literally just to fuck with you, not even kill you, just to
ask you a fucking riddle, and if you can't answer it, they just slit your throat for some reason. And
if you do answer it right, they also slit your throat.
But because you didn't.
The trick is you have to say you have to say banana, 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 koala, and they're like, fuck.
Yeah, a lot of them, even if you get the right answer, it's they'll kill you. So you have to do something to buy yourself time to run away.
Yeah, hop on one leg in a circle, and they'll be so confused and laughing at you that you have time to run. That kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah, so it was interesting to me that these were hundreds of years old ghosts that knew how to flag down a bus and just ride the bus. They weren't questioning. They weren't what is this mechanical beast? They were just yeah, yo, we need a ride.
Yeah. Good eye on the old lady though. Because once again, that's one of those things where I would be not even think about it, just turn my music up.
And for her looking out for the other passenger, but not the fucking driver. When he let him off, she wasn't hey, you need to run. She's just fuck you, driver.
Look, he had a job to do.
Right. I guess.
He wouldn't have come anyway. He takes it very seriously. Even if I die, I'm getting these ghosts there on time.
I like the idea, too, that she had to come up with this elaborate ruse. She couldn't just say to the guy...
She's done it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely, that's her back pocket to, get out of any situation. It's that's actually pretty brilliant. It's no matter what's going on, it's sorry, I gotta leave and file a police report.
Go for it. And in part, of course, they say this oh, how did this happen? And of course, it's a complete legend. But I love when there's these made up these ghost stories type legends, but they don't. We've talked about it. It's people almost overthink them and explain things that it would be more plausible if they left them unexplained. Mm-hmm. But the idea of somebody accusing you of taking their stuff and be nope, we're stopping right now and going to the police station so we can make this report. If you didn't do it, I wouldn't be fine.
Even if you put demon ghosts who would probably kill me and the cops as my two options, and I knew I was innocent, I would still be leaning towards the demon ghost because I just don't want to talk to the cops.
You've played through all 3 Demon Souls or Dark Souls games, and
I'm basically an expert on their attack patterns at this point. So and with Game Fuel, according to the can, I have heightened alertness, accuracy, and vitamins A and B right now. I would fuck up all these monsters.
Shouldn't they like make it a point to make it vitamins like A, B, X, and Y, so that it's like all the buttons on the controller?
Vitamin X. That's just dick pills.
Well,
that's a scientific term for dick pills.
Sure, but that would sell more Game Fuel.
It'd sell more dick pills. Oh. So just imagining a grandpa taking all of his grandson's Game Fuel.
It sells itself too. It's like, Grandpa, is that my can of Game Fuel in your pocket? No, I already drank the Game Fuel.
Well, it is, but not in the form you think.
This one can't
go back to bed.
Yeah.
Oh, we hate you, Grandpa. Quit drinking our dick juice. So,
I kind of have a feeling if they put dick juice on the side of the can, it wouldn't sell nearly as much.
Dude, dick juice.
I like it though. Original flavor.
Dude. Oh man, but I want them to sell it with the same attitude as as they sell Game Fuel, the intense alertness and accuracy.
The accuracy would be the best.
Dick. I love it. You know what? We're $25 well spent just for that laugh. So yeah, those were good urban legends though. Those are always fun to do.
Yeah.
Like I like them because they're so different with like every culture, you know. Like Japan always has the really elaborate like
the blankets that come alive and fall from the ceiling and like eat your face. But
yeah, like Japan's really brutal, and it's always a great like juxtaposition of like, you know, America's like, we got baby goose,
yeah,
and shit.
They cry.
They cry.
It's a way to punish people who don't want babies to drown. Yeah, because the only winners in that first circumstance are people that don't care if somebody's baby drowns. Like you say, you're walking along and you hear a drowning baby, and you're like,
like that's the thing. We'll see some like old fucking like cowboy pouting, like that's our ghost interaction here in the States. And in Japan, you will run across a headless samurai that will fucking kill you,
or a raccoon with giant magical testicles.
That will fucking kill you.
Okay, all right, Dale.
That will smother you with its pendulum balls.
4 million stories of like, oh, and then you'll find a beautiful lady, and then you'll blink and she'll bite your head off.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, oh, cool. Oh. So they really do not like.
And each one of those has the punchline of like, women, am I right, fellas?
I was gonna say they really dislike beautiful women.
It's very. Japan. That's another aspect of these that is very funny to me. Is just that particular cultural hatred of like women doing anything for themselves. That's a fun show. This has been fun.
I was hoping to have a couple more than that, but it's getting more and more difficult to come across interesting ones that we haven't covered already.
Oh, don't say that. We just got to dig into the right corners.
Well, that's true. I say what I should correctly state, it's getting more and more difficult to, in 15 minutes free time, come up with.
It's very difficult to do this when you just realized you have to do the show in an hour.
On a particularly busy... I've had worse days at work as far as busy, but it wasn't one of those. A lot of times you get the serendipitous. For me, your job I know is different, but like I've had a lot of days where it's like I need a topic and it's completely dead all day at work, and it's like so I have time to kind of. Not that it ever takes me real long, but today I did not have that.
Yeah.
but
I mean the last 2 stories I brought to the show were creepypastas specifically because like I just don't have time to put anything together. And that makes you a dick
because that would have been my go-to, but I'm like I don't want to do 2 in a row.
Well, fuck it. Like I'm reviewing Game Fuel.
Yeah.
We're on our last legs anyway until that sponsorship goes through, and it's a coming.
Like I said, if not the game fuel, at least the mixins.
The mixins, yeah.
Or we get real elaborate with it since you have so much and say, okay, well, if game fuel sucks by itself, what foods can you pair it with to make it better or worse?
I don't think you can improve much with game fuel. Like, it's the most I can say about it right now is it's drinkable. Like,
Mountain Dew, just because we're already shilling for them for some reason. So, well, kind of reverse shilling for them, I guess. But they just came out with that, like, Mountain Dew cookbook. It had, like, the radioactive looking glowing green chicken wings.
For somebody who actually, like, I've cut down substantially on, like, soda. Like, I still drink a lot of energy drinks, but, like, I've cut down on a lot of soda I've drank as I've gotten older. And I drank a lot of Mountain Dew growing up. And I still enjoy it, but I'm like, all I do, I feel like, is trash their products now. I was just talking about that fucking watermelon shit they put out.
Oh, I hated that.
At work today, and I was just like, when I had it, I was like, it's not even, it's the same thing kind of with this, where it's like, it's drinkable, but it's like, once you drink it, you feel like you're gonna die. Like,
yeah,
there's so much sugar in it.
Tara hates Mountain Dew. She will not drink it because of she's like, it's just pure sugar. And I tend to agree, but if you have enough ice, like ice will cut that a bit, or liquor cuts it. And that's where the watermelon, and I'll do this stuff because I'm as far as like being a consumer, I'm like the dumbest consumer you can possibly be, because I know right off the bat.
Try shit, you know?
But I hate artificial watermelon. Like, I hate watermelon candy. I hate watermelon, like, juices. But I saw watermelon.
I don't really like watermelon to begin with. And I actually think artificial watermelon tastes better than most, like, natural, like, watermelon.
I like watermelon, but it has to be in season. Maybe not. There's only about 3 months of the year.
It's just a bullshit melon.
But anyway, so I know how much I hate watermelon flavored stuff, and I don't particularly like Mountain Dew. But then I see watermelon Mountain Dew, and it's like, I gotta try that.
They'll fix it.
Yeah.
From the makers of Game Fuel, they'll fix this fruit I hate.
And again, to really, really grind into the ground how much of an alcoholic I am, I saw it, and I'm like, I gotta try that. That's probably good with vodka or rum. I think I can't remember which I had.
If nothing else, it's like, if it's not good, it's like, who gives a shit?
It was not good, but like you said, I didn't give a shit. And I think I only drank half of it and poured the rest out. Like,
but at that point, it's just like, it's.
Well, it wasn't like I set the wrong mental picture there. I didn't drink half and be like, this is shit, and pour it out like on the spot. I used half of it and put it back in the fridge, and then like a week later, it was still there, and I'm like, now it's flat. And if you take shit pop that you don't like and then make it flat, that does not make it better. Yeah. So then I poured it out. So it wasn't like one of these spite, like, oh, gross and whatever. But alcohol was not enough to redeem it for me. But it was mostly what you said. It wasn't like it tastes bad. It's just so sweet. Like,
it's very like, it coats your mouth, and it's just. But yeah, it's so it's such a fucking, like, it feels like something from like a cartoon. You know, like Slurm and shit from Futurama, exactly. Where it's like, you imagine some fucking sugar worm just shitting this stuff out into a can.
Straight into the can, or the bottle in this case, yeah.
Yeah, and in some ways, I respect the process. You know, keep doing this. Keep, like, just polluting the earth with these concoctions.
If nothing else from me, I'll buy every single one at least once. You could come out with black licorice Mountain Dew, and I'd be like, fucking disgusting. I gotta try
it. Send me a case, and I'll review it on the show, apparently.
Right.
So, anyway, man, Game Fuel.
Game Fuel.
This made this a weird one. But yeah, that was fun. Hope you all enjoyed. We'll be back next week with a new story and a new flavor.
Yeah.
So,
are you gonna hold off on tasting it so it's your first taste of the next
absolutely.
Flavor?
I'm committed. I know it will be hard because I gave this such a raving review.
Well, that means if you do,
but I'll be able to hold off until next week.
I was gonna say though, that does mean if you do decide you're like, I need a little caffeine but not a monster, I'll have it means you have to stick with the the gross flavor that you.
Here's the
and I think
here's the sad
like,
thing. I should just take a picture of my fridge door and how fucked it is right now, because I got all these game fuels on the bottom shelf loaded, and then the shelf above that, it's loaded with Monster Energy drinks. So I'm good. Like, I mean, I'm gonna die. I might not make it through 4 flavors, but
well, it'll be interesting. An old lady will see you, and you will be floating off the ground, and she'll say,
"No, I just had too much caffeine."
Yeah, I didn't realize. And you ride the. At least you have taken the bus.
I ride the bus pretty much every day. So
yeah, so maybe that last one was about you and 2 of your friends, like
probably. I mean.
Yeah. And then when they're like severely decomposed body, you just died that night, but it's just that's the Mountain Dew eating its way through your corpses.
Yeah.
Like it, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, hope you enjoyed whatever the hell this was this week. Yeah. And like Ben said, we'll be back.
Womp womp.